want to start. Mas vou durar até você.
No.
So, okay, let me say good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are around the world. Member of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, today the 21st of April 2022, at this present time, we are about to give a press statement for immediate release for the Liberian people and the public in general. The United Liberian for Justice and the Rule of Law decided to have a major press conference. We'll have more than 20 to 30 studio, more than 20 to 30 medias and journalists here present. Let me take this time by thanking every one of you for coming. I will start from my right hand. We have Mr. Ayuba Kamara. He's the co-chair for the United Liberian for Justice and the Rule of Law. We have Mr. Sethi Sharif. He's the official spokesperson for this particular group, United Liberian for Justice and the Rule of Law. In my capacity as Financial Secretary, my name is Mohammed Majabari. I'm the Financial Secretary for United Liberian and the Rule of Law, for Justice and the Rule of Law. We have other workers from Sethi Dura. They are here. The president for the Sethi worker is here. By name of James Woroba is here. We have our sister Awa Masakwe from the Scrap Dealer Association of Liberia. We have our brother here from one of the workers from Sethi, Lawrence Poto. We have one of our brothers that are working with Sethi, Edward P. Flomo. We have our other brother behind us there, Ibrahim Kalon. So, and our dynamic and hardworking chairman, who is not here, he was not here today, by the name of Dominic Nimle. He is out of country, but he'll soon join us as soon as possible by next week. So thank you very much for coming. We would like to turn over the mic to the spokesperson for United Liberian for Justice and Rule of Law, Mr. Sethi Sharif. So the floor is yours.
Let me use this time to say thank you to the Liberian media for giving us such an opportunity so we can speak to the Liberian people. Like the Financial Secretary, Mr. Mohammed Bari, head of one of the business institutions in the country, said the chairman, Dominic Limne, would love to be here, but because we've put together so many ideas as to call for the better redress for all the issues that have continued to happen in Liberia through Mr. Paul Sethi. He's out of the country having an engagement with some international people if it relates to the issue about legal advice. Conglomeration of several local Liberian businesses from across the country and Liberians working with Paul Sethi companies under the banner United Liberians for Justice and the Rule of Law is calling on Liberians to join a peaceful march against the violation of the laws of Liberia on the part of Mr. Paul Sethi. It has been established that agreements entered by Mr. Paul Sethi and the Liberian government in 2016 to provide certain jobs for Liberians and gave a competitive market price in the sub-region for Liberian scrap dealers has been violated by Mr. Paul Sethi and his associates. Paul's constant habit has continued to endanger the lives of Liberians working at his factories by not providing the needed safety materials. Paul's actions have resulted to Liberians complaining about the substandard steel roll, plastic chairs, polo tanks, cement on the Liberian market with high cost and less grade. We, the members of the United Liberians for Justice and the Rule of Law, want to re-echo one of the speeches of President George Weah when he said, Liberians will not be spectators in the economy. If that is the case, we will be asking the legislature to revisit the existing agreement between Paul Sethi, that is to say, he's using to violate the rights of Liberians and the laws of the country. It is now clear that Paul Sethi, an Indian businessman, has no respect for constitutional authority, whereas he is on record for stating his actions are supported or sanctioned by some members of the executive, even though it is unclear to believe his assertions. But it is also important to note that the Minister of Labor, Charles Gibson, was seen in his compound on 7th Street Single after working hours by 8:30 p.m. while we were calling for justice for Liberians. Please note that video footage to this effect is available. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, we are constrained to have this peaceful march on May 19, 2022 due to the flagrant violation of the laws of Liberia by Paul Sethi and the continued refusal of the Labor Ministry headed by Minister Charles Gibson to ensure Paul Sethi do the right thing in line with the laws of the country and for those Liberians working within his factories. We have been reliably informed that Paul Sethi has reached out to several senior government officials to use their powers to stop our peaceful march at the legislature and various embassies in and around Monrovia. As we speak, Mr. Paul Sethi is secretly working with agents within the judiciary, especially the lower courts, to stall our peaceful march, which is in violation of the Constitution of Liberia. We want to make this very clear to Mr. Paul Sethi, owner of Dura, Plast, Star Cement, NBRC, and Sethi Faro Fabric Steel Plant, and his agents in government he claimed are supporting his actions, to be informed that we, the conglomeration of several local Liberian businesses from across the country and Liberians working within his companies, under the banner United Liberians for Justice and the Rule of Law, remain unbending and resolved to have this peaceful march come next month. No amount of intimidation or scare tactics from anywhere will stop us from having our peaceful march on May 19, 2022, which is fully guaranteed under the 1986 Liberian Constitution. There are countless testimonies from Liberians and his Liberian workers about inhumane actions and unfair business habits towards Liberians. We want to thank the President, George Manawia, and the George Manawia-led administration for creating the suitable business climate for investors by giving tax waivers to some investors to carry out investment in Liberia. In doing so, ladies and gentlemen of the press, we are 100% assured that the government did not give tax waiver to investors to remove Liberian-owned businesses from business as it has been done by Mr. Paul Sethi towards Liberian scrap dealers, rubber ditches, fuller businesses, building materials, just to name few. With such actions and many more, we are calling on Liberians affected by poor actions in Nimba, Revogi, Sino, Lofa, Bon, Bomi, Bapolu, Monserrato, Grand Kepan, Grand Basso, Grand Jide, Maryland, and Mangibi counties to come out on the 19th of May 2022 to petition the legislature, including foreign embassies near Monrovia, such as the United States Embassy, the European Union, ECOWAS, and other development partners within Liberia, so as to put a halt to the human rights violations and the constant violation of the laws of Liberia within his entities. We want to be very clear that this peaceful actions is in no way calling for the closure or removal of Paul Sethi businesses in Liberia, but intended to petition the legislature to review or ratify existing agreements entered between the government of Liberia and Mr. Paul Sethi that gives Sethi exclusive rights and tax holiday in other areas that he's using to take Liberians out of business and ill-treating Liberian workers working within his entities. Just to tell you how bad the situation is, members of the press, 6 Liberian workers from the compound of Sethi brothers were redundant on April 11, 2022 without due process in violation of 14.5 of the Decent Work Act of Liberia. We remain law-abiding and respecters of the law of the country, and so we expect officials of the current government to do the same, to respect our rights to have our peaceful march. Giving honor our hands and seal on this day, we want to say thank you. This press conference is being signed by Sekou Sharif. I'm the CEO of Voice of Liberia and the official spokesperson of the United Liberians for Justice and the Rule of Law. It's been approved by our co-chair, Ayuba Kamara. He's the president of the Scrap Dealers Association of Liberia, and he's the co-chair of the United Liberians for Justice and the Rule of Law. It has been attested by Mr. Mohammed Bari, who is the president of the Fuller Business Association, and he's the financial secretary of this institution. It has been accepted and approved by the chairman of Patel, and also the chairman of United Liberians for Justice and the Rule of Law, Dominic Nimlin. And you can see the workers, our sister. You seen them. Mr. Nimlin, just to disclose this to you, because we've received a lot of information that Paul wants to do a lot of things in the country in terms of infringing on the rights of Liberians. The chairman is currently out of the country, and we're going to use the ECOWAS code, if the need be, if the legislature fail to do what is right. And that is the reason why he's out of the country. He has gone to meet the lawyers as to give them our issues, and they're going to advise us legally as to complain Mr. Paul Sethi to the ECOWAS code if the legislature, and we call on the various embassies near Monrovia to call this man to book. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the press. And if you guys have some questions, we beg you to please ask, because everything we say here, we have facts. These are all documents of what you say, and we're willing to show you people.
My name is Jonathan Dolly, and I write for Claims TV Africa. Have you been able to sit with the management of Sethi better to outline some of these points you have raised with them and what have been the outcomes, sir?
So part of the documents I'm talking about, I'm going to find for you a letter written by the Scrap Dealers Association inviting Mr. Paul Sethi to a meeting as to bring to his attention on some of the things that Liberians are complaining about him. Paul refused. Right? No, this is not okay. So yes, the next question I will find out here.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Sekou Aminata Kona, and I report for Strong FM.
This is a letter to Paul Sethi asking him for a meeting. His institution, he did not. From the Scrap Dealers Association. He doesn't listen. He's on record, on audio. Paul is saying all of his actions have been supported by people within his executive. We don't have facts to it, but we saw the labor minister in his house after working hours.
So thank you. I want to know, have the United Liberians for Justice and the Rule of Law engaged the Labor Ministry to see how best those who are victims of the alleged labor practice concern can be addressed? And secondly, what does group want to achieve after the May 19 peaceful assembly?
Like we said at the end of the press conference, is the right thing to be done to rectify some of the agreements. This is the incentive agreement Madam Sethi signed with Paul Sethi. Let me show you the documents. It gives Paul Sethi the right to open the factory, and also he is to employ Liberians. Here is it. Now, if you want me to go through this, a portion of this that talks about who Paul should employ, Paul is not doing it, right? So, even you go to Paul, whatsoever you do, Paul will not listen. The next question, the other question you asked, he said, what?
What do you want to achieve after the peaceful assembly?
We want to achieve, like I said, to have these things to be re-rectified and make these things to be right so that Paul can start violating the laws of the country. Let Paul provide the standard things. Paul has the company. He has deprived people of exporting scraps, which is good. The government wants to create the enabling environment for investors. But Paul decides the price. If you do a research in South Africa, Asula Mentada is in Liberia, was doing the same, on purchasing the scrap from the people. They were charged by the government millions of dollars. But in Liberia, it is not what's happening. You talk about the workers. They are all victims. They are living victims. There is a brother there. Please show your hands. Let us show the camera. This man went to Paul Sethi with all his hands equal. You see how the man got damaged? You know what Paul did? They dodged this man.
Have you guys got a plan to engage the labor minister?
Let the other man hand caught. Ain't here? Ain't here? Now we have pictures upon pictures. Is that the labor minister? I got exchange of messages. I can show you people, which I'm willing now. It's not about confidentiality.
Okay.
I asked the labor minister. I'm going to read it for you. I told the labor minister that this is what's happening at Paul Sethi's area. You know what the labor minister did? The labor minister asked me for the facts. I sent just one of the many documents I have. The labor minister, the same evening he was at the house of Paul Sethi.
My name is Nelson. Let me ask you this, Weeks from Lena. You are a kind of products. You're making these skating allegations, talk about human rights violation and so forth. Let's talk about the low standards when it comes to products and quality control. Don't we have the Ministry of Commerce with these guys that check out the products that come out on the Liberian market?
So what do? When we pushed the issue, call the attention of the labor minister of the Republic of Liberia, not just the inspector, and then we send messages.
We're talking about commerce.
I'm trying to come to that point, right? Send messages. Now you can see I sent the documents to the labor minister when he asked for it, right? At the end of the day, the labor minister was seen in the house of Paul Sethi. Who should we go to? The people at the Ministry of Commerce, they are aware. They are aware. Who's going to tell Paul to do the right thing?
A plate with a minister's plate, or would not suggest that it was him in there. And even if it was him, you know what was discussed.
Oh, your thing is right. A government official at 8:30, you're listening to Liberians complaining about something that this individual has done, violating the rights of the people, and then you ask a journalist to give you facts, and the journalist gave you the fact the same day you went to the house of this person. How do you see such an information? And the next day he went to do the CBA. The CBA that is signed, the guys are not taking the money as we speak.
Another question. You talk about agents in government. These are very, very tough allegations you're making. Talk about Sethi having agents in
It is why he said he's on record. We have it. We have the audio. Sethi said we should be mindful because the time he brought in cement and he only paid, he needed to pay more than what he paid. Right? He lied to the government and they gave him detail free that he would not sell the cement. He came and sold the cement. And so when he was being contacted, he said the people should be careful because what he's doing is from the executive. We have the audio. We can share with you. We don't know if it is true. Like we said, we don't have facts to say it is true. But this is what he's saying.
My name is Nelson Collet. I report for Fabric Radio and I'm from the Spoon Network. So my first question has to do with the issue about bulk of the issues you raised. They are labor-related issues. Those are things that falls within the purview of the Ministry of Labor. Do you believe in the ability of the Ministry of Labor, that's the labor minister or the government of Liberia, to be able to adequately address this issue? That's one. And then the second question has to do with a portion in your release where you talked about reaching out to diplomatic missions. I mean, looking at the fact that those are labor issues, what specific role do you really anticipate that those diplomatic missions will play in this particular issue?
We want them to know about the human rights violations. We know they're not going to take actions, they're not going to change the laws of our country, but they should be informed. Paul has businesses around, and Paul has his children that go to America. Let them know that this is what Paul is doing in Liberia. With the pieces of evidence, all of what we're going to be doing, we're going to present to them. You said this is about, labor issue. It's very good. The lady at the Ministry of Labor, what's the lady name? Woman Samson. When these guys were asked to go and plan a redundancy, even though the law says before there should be a redundancy, it is either because of economic reason. Maybe you want to have a closure of the business. You want to change the business because of some other reasons, right? Paul is targeting these people, but he's employing another people. Woman Samson is on recording, telling the people that what Paul is doing is wrong. But at the end of the day, she sent her honor man to plan a redundancy for these people. Even though some of these people work for more than 5 years, Paul wants to give them 1,000.
You think the Ministry of Labor can handle this issue?
Charles Gibson, if I could in this country be the president, Charles Gibson will not even be labor minister because he's the worst of all ever happened to Liberia. He has desecrated the office of the labor ministry to the extent the labor minister cannot do nothing. He's a toothless bulldog. He encourages the people to do what's happening to Liberians. And at the appropriate time, Charles will answer to what he's doing to Liberians.
Okay, I'm Bill Cully from OKFM. There could be other companies, including foreign ones, that are engaged with bilegal practices, human rights violation, production of substandard products. Why on the Sethi brother you?
Thank you. So Sethi has one of the biggest companies in this country. Now, before you come out to say things, you should be having the facts towards them. We don't want to make allegations that we cannot defend. Like I said this to you about the agreement the man entered with the government of Liberia in 2016. I'll show you the document. I told you that people are working with Paul, and whenever they got injured doing the job, they send them home without anything. I'll show you another person, right? And then you ask me if somebody wrote a letter or everything, I'll show you a letter. So to tell you, other companies we might not be having the fights to raise issues. Now, before this thing could reach to a peaceful march, we talk about this thing on the radio, thinking that the people in government are responsible to handle these issues affecting the Liberian people. If you were to go to your various institutions, open your various platforms and ask Liberians that are purchasing products from Paul Sethi, they will tell you substandard steel rods and everything. Some of you that are building, the steel rod length, how they used to be. He has reduced everything and increased the price. This document, they did not give this document. The incentive agreement, they did not give it to Paul Sethi to do that thing to Liberian people.
So are you going to sustain this? Are you going against Sethi?
If we're not going to sustain it, we'll not have the peaceful march. We're having a peaceful march. Do you know how many intimidations we've received? As we speak today, we got an intel that Paul has gone to the Supreme Court using one of the local courts to pull a halt to our peaceful march. And I called the judge. I won't call his name. And I asked him, he said it's false. And I'm waiting for them to stop us. If it is a wrong thing for us to have a peaceful march, then we'll get to know. No one is above the law and no one is afraid of anyone here. In as much we are all Liberians, we respect the laws of our country. People should respect and tell people the truth. It won't take anybody anything to tell Paul to do the right thing. Paul is not doing this to other countries where he has his businesses.
A follow-up on the brother here question on your organization. This seems, someone watching this will say this, you're targeting Sethi. Are there other Liberian businesses, Liberian-owned business? Because when you talk about labor practice, we see them, my labor practice, we see that all over the country. Here,
Mr. Weeks,
have you ever investigated any other?
I will appreciate for you to give us the fight so we can add on this. We don't have it.
So
you don't want us to make allegations.
So this is your first case.
You don't want us to make allegations.
This is your first case.
This is the first major case where we're going to have a peaceful march.
But give us name on some of them that you litigated but didn't match.
I've been talking about a lot of institutions in this country.
Give us a name.
You in this country. Have you not listened to me talking about other institutions? Even government people. We talked about them, about the ills in the society.
I mean, other companies that are...
I talk about B Mountain. I have videos and everything about B Mountain, right?
Need.
We spoke about the issue. And as we speak, I think I got information, if I'm not 100%, the labor minister as we speak is in B Mountain. He goes there and he enjoys. They got it camp and they got it town. He sleeps in the hotel where the people gave him, and he goes to the people and receive what he wants to receive, and that's the hope of Liberians, and he gets back to Monrovia. So there are a lot of cases. We can just name all here. There are a lot of cases. And this thing, I want to make it very clear. We respect the people in government. We respect the rule of law. That's the reason why you see all the people that are sitting here, they are all responsible people, heads of various institutions. We've not come to make fun. We don't want anyone to continue to intimidate us, because if you do, you'll be doing something different. We will not stop. Just so you people know, we have up to 700 t-shirts being printed by the people themselves. The people themselves are giving what they can give because they think that enough is enough. You know what Paul did once? There's a guy that came from Nimba to purchase up to 400,000 goose from Paul Sethi. The same week, Paul went and opened a store in Nimba County, depriving that guy. The people that are purchasing rubber ditches and everything, Paul is producing. Some of y'all go buy the rubber ditch, y'all go test it, y'all go see how it looking. That man can produce it. Let me behind you there. The man can produce the chairs and everything. Is no longer standard. It's substandard. What he does when you come in with a rubber ditch, he asks the security people to stop. That's the power Paul has in this country. And we sit here and allow these things to happen. There will come a time. Let me say this to the people in government. We are saying it with sincerity. If you don't do what is right, no one is saying that Paul should leave this country. Make Paul to do the right thing. But from what we've heard and Paul continue to say, there will come a time Paul will decide who to become president of this country. Because he brags that he's helping the government, and the government don't want to understand that he's helping them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, the voice of
And so on the 19th of next month, we're calling on Liberians to come up. We will be having a peaceful protest. Y'all, thank you very much.
Thanks for following. My name is Nelson Kole, and you just listen to the voice of that stage.
No, my man.
As United